Bienvenidos a Taboo Talk Latina Edition. Yo soy Cynthia.
And I'm Jeanette. And as always, we're here for the raw, the real, and the necessary conversations que nos sanan, nos retan, and brings our comunidad together. Today's episode is going to hit different and deep because we're talking about unlearning the pressure to hustle harder, what healing really looks like, and how success doesn't mean sacrificing our peace.
Our guest today is a powerhouse in the PR and brand world. She's the founder of Chick Influence Consultant and has worked with brands like Olay, Riso Curls, Bloomy, and so many more. But beyond the campaigns and strategy, she's a first-generation Latina who's rewriting what it means to show up with purpose and alignment. Please help us welcome the bold and brilliant and beautiful Lissette Rios.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pretty intro. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
No, I'm so excited to be here. And I obviously love the theme of taboo talks because it is so necessary. In general, there's already enough taboos in this world. And I think you layer on being a woman and being Latina, which makes it even harder. So I really appreciate that you guys started this because I think there's so many things that we need to talk about that'll actually bring us closer together than it does to like kind of
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And of course, before we jump into today's topic, can you take us back a bit? We'd love to hear more about the mujer behind the brand. What led you into the hustle? ¿Cuál fue el momento when you realized that something had to shift?
Yeah, I mean, the hustle was very much ingrained in me since birth. To be honest, my grandparents came to this country from Cuba with businesses. So they were already entrepreneurs. So I grew up in a family business that my whole family worked in, which is a photography studio, which is still owned and operated by my family in Miami. It's literally like 110 years going. Like, I'm not even kidding. So I grew up working. I remember working as young as like 5 years old, my grandfather teaching me how to take care of customers and work the register. Obviously, not child labor laws or anything like that, but when you're kind of raised in this, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of fast forward when I was in middle school, my mom, who worked at the family studio, decided to open up a invitation store. It was very complimentary to the photography business. She loved party favors and event planning and all that stuff. So when she opened the business, even though I was like, I don't know, sixth or seventh grade, she like pulled me into it. So I helped her with my dad kind of put together a business, and then she had me running the business at a very young age. So like on the weekends, I would go and work it. So she had the business from when I was in middle school until I was like a sophomore in college. So it was a
Wow.
very long time. So it was like, even though my mom was like the owner on paper, I was like, if she was CEO, I was like COO, Chief Operations Officer. Like, I learned how to work QuickBooks, how to balance the checkbook, how to do the monthly reconciliations, plus take care of customers. Like, if she wanted to go on vacation, I would run the business.
Wow.
So I'm kind of giving you the origin story to like how I got here. And then I decided, because grass is greener on the other side, I was like, I want to study PR because everyone that meets me says that I talk a lot and I would just do really good in PR. And then, of course, I'm like, I don't want to work with my family anymore. I want to work in corporate America. Like, I want to wear a suit and I want to swipe a badge. Because obviously, growing up in a family business is beautiful, but there's also something very unique as of having your mom as your boss. Where, like, for example, if I like messed up a customer's order, like in a normal job, they would like dock your pay or, kind of give you a consequence in a different manner. Like, if I messed up a customer's order, she would punish me. Like, you can't go out this weekend. And I'm like, that's not normal. I was like, I don't want my mom to be my boss. I want my mom to be my mom. So they were very supportive of it. But my mom is like, look, I'm not going to run this by myself anymore. So if you're not going to do this, then I'm closing the business, which it always kind of hurt me a little bit because I'm like, man, I hope it wasn't just me. And obviously with time, she's just like, I was tired. I was over it. I was like, okay, fine. But I saw how hard my mom hustles. And I was like, okay, but I go off, I go to corporate. I graduated, get my degree in PR. I worked in Miami for a few years before I moved in 2010 to New York because I had bigger dreams now. I was like, oh, I want to work in PR, but I want to work on the big brands, the big campaigns. And Miami just didn't offer me that. So I was able to get a job here at an incredible agency. And then I was like, let me just work, hustle, hustle, hustle. I'm through the ranks. New York puts a different caliber of hustle inside of you.
Yeah.
Growing up in a family business is great because I learned the fundamentals of business, customer service, and entrepreneurship directly. at a very young age. Like, I always tell people, I'm like, I can retire now. I've been literally working my whole life. Like, I'm 40.
Like, no kidding.
I've been working my whole life, so it's like I'm exhausted. Like most people will feel like this in their 60s. Like, no, I'm like, I've been working forever. But then New York just gives you a different kind of hustle. So what I learned in the family business was great because I had one form of doing business, but New York, that's just next level, especially when you work corporate at global agencies. It's just so cutthroat. It's very every man for themselves. Like people are clawing at you because your job, 20 other people are behind you trying to have it. So I learned that hustle. And then I kind of was climbing the ranks when the whole girl boss phenomenon was happening. So I'm like, I'm gonna girl boss. I'm gonna work hard. Sleep? What's that? I don't you gotta keep working. And then of course you put in the immigrant mentality where it's like, well, my grandparents didn't come to this country for me to fail. So I gotta keep working because if my grandparents came to this country with nothing and were able to build a business, but yet I have more resource at college education, speak two languages, then I should be able to do more than what they have ever done. Right. So then I was just like, grind, 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 grind. Then I meet my boyfriend, now husband, and he has his own business. So I'm just surrounded by just hustlers. And I'm just like, grind, grind, grind. I get burnt out by corporate. And at that point, I'm like, I'm going to start my own business, which is great because at that point, I'm like, I'm burnt out by corporate. I don't see where my growth is here. And even though I walked away from a six-figure salary and everyone thought I was crazy, I was just so unhappy. And I was just like, and then my husband was like, "You're working so hard for another company and you're literally running a business within a business. You can do it for yourself." And I'm like, "Great. So I'm going to do that." And I'm just like, I'm going to start my business, grind, grind, grind. Obviously, this is the Cliff Notes version. I'm grinding for 10 years. I'm growing, I'm scaling, I'm profitable since day one. I now have a team. The clients are exploding and I am just burnt out to another level. 2 years ago, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm unhappy. I was having severe anxiety. I was already diagnosed depressed, and I now am entering my husband and I trying to conceive, and it's not working. So we start IVF, and it was just a snowball. And I'm like, I am no longer, to me, success no longer looks like being a girl boss. To me, success looks like peace and having slow mornings and having choices to live my life the way that I want to because everything that I subscribed to led me to a point of my mental, physical, and emotional health being completely crumbled to shreds. Like I'm a very broken person and I'm now picking up the pieces. And that is my
Wow.
long response to
Wow.
that question.
That is powerful because we're used to, growing up in the Hispanic culture, right? Where you do have to go to your 9 to 5 first, you graduate, find a good career, and then retired and call it a day, right? But
Hmm.
you kind of were the opposite, which is, it's crazy, right? Because you had the family business, you had the opportunity. You're like, no, I want to go to corporate. I want to go to school. So you did things the opposite, but it's inspiring to see how you overcame certain things and your perspective from it. Because I
Yeah.
feel like we are in different situations, right? That we're currently stuck with that transition of like, do I follow what my family is doing or what I was taught that I should be doing? Do I follow my dreams? Like what's right, what's wrong, especially when you've been on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, hustle was ingrained in you. Wow, thank you for sharing. That was like beautiful. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Yeah. Wow, yeah. I totally feel you because I'm in corporate America and I was the same. Like when I graduated college, I was like, yeah, like I want to hustle, I want to climb the ladder. And I think for me what did it was the pandemic. The pandemic was it made me slow down because, everyone started working from home and, everything was like calm and shut down. And that made me realize like, first, I can't believe that I'm driving almost 2 hours to get to my office every single day, work 9 to 5. I'm a tax accountant. That doesn't exist. Like that 9 to 5, it's like nine until you finish the job.
Exactly.
So the pandemic for me was like a wake-up call to kind of like slow down. What's important is your health, your mental health, and your family. And I think the pandemic did that to a lot of us.
No, 1,000%. And the pandemic was very much like the impetus for what snowballed in the last 5 years for me. right? So it's like, yes, pre-pandemic, girl bossing so hard. And not just girl bossing at work, but doing the most at home and then doing the most on my personal time because I'm very neurotic. So if you tell me something can't be done, I'm gonna prove to you that it can be done.
Yeah,
So
love that.
everyone's
Yeah.
like, "You're gonna run a marathon? That's crazy." I'm like, "Oh, you wanna see? I'm gonna run
Yeah.
you crazy? I'm gonna show you crazy. I'm gonna show you
Yeah, I'll
crazy."
show you
And
crazy.
I not only did I want run one marathon, I ran 2 marathons. Like, "Oh, you think running 26.2 miles is hard? Oh, no, I can show you I can do it. I can do it while running a business, while having a marriage, while in the middle of all of this, my husband and I were buying a place in New York. It's just crazy, right? But then the pandemic comes, and obviously the pandemic is hard for everyone. You know, I can only speak through my lens, which is the pandemic through the eyes of somebody and a couple that lived in New York City, because New York City was crazy. We were ground zero for a very long time. It was very, very scary here. And not only that, but both my husband and I were business owners. So I was just like, what the heck is going to happen? Like, I'm just going to lose my business overnight. And we're seeing all these businesses close around. And thank God for PPP because that's what saved my business. I was able to keep everyone on payroll because of that and it got forgiven. But all of that to say is that for the pandemic and leading up to like the following, let's say 2 years, it was like anyone who saved their business during the pandemic, to me, that was an equivalent of like an MBA from Harvard. If you are able to pivot, sustain, and keep going, like you are operating at another level mentally. Because what people forget sometimes, especially me as a small business, it's like everyone's coming to me to ask me, well, what's going to happen? Right? Like I'm the boss. I'm the one that has to have it figured out. The clients are asking me, well, what's going to happen? My team is asking me what's going to happen. I'm like, you guys, I've never been through a pandemic before. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. All I can do is try to problem solve to the best of my ability and pray to God that no one loses their jobs. Right? So that stress, I feel like while it was happening, you don't have time to process in real time. You're just trying to put the fire out. The same way I equate it to like parents and their kids and that whole situation with the pandemic and kids. It's like you don't have time to process your kid being pulled out of school. You're just trying to keep your kid happy as much as you can, right? But then after you kind of like breathe a little bit and then you just kind of like get slapped in the face like, what was that the last 2 years? Like I just reminded myself, I was like, wow, like I spent 2 years like saving my business. So when I had to make the decision this past year, whether to keep the business going or not, there was so many things shifting, but I was so broken as a human where I was like, I had to ask myself, do I save the business or do I save myself? And I already knew I didn't have the stamina to save it. I had already done it in 2020. I was like, I'm like, if I try to do that again, that's it. I'm literally gonna just melt into the ground. So I made the choice to save myself. And I'm like, you know what? I did this for 10 years. I have to be so proud. And that's it. Close one chapter, heal myself, and figure out what's next. And then, of course, the pressure. I'm not going to say that it was easy. I spent 2 months crying every single day. The thought of laying off a team, laying off team members that have families, telling my clients like they no longer have a manager or they no longer have a publicist. So then they're like, who's going to do my work? So it's like, I had to figure out all of that stuff. It was just so much pressure. And that's what held me on for 2 years. I was just like running on fumes for 2 years. So I always tell my team, I'm like, the person that you were dealing with for the last 2 years was like a shell of a human. Like I was not, I wasn't mentally there. I was just doing enough to look like I was doing enough. So yeah, the pandemic, I think, messed up everyone. And I can say it 100% messed me up.
And I applaud you for taking a step back because it takes a lot, especially when you have that mentality of that you're a go-getter and you're like, I don't give up, right? It's hard because mental health is something that it can really drain you. It can cause so many, depression, anxiety, and take you to levels that you never even imagined, right? And I know I'm sure I've been there. Cynthia has been there. Like all we all been there in that situation where we've had to make tough decisions in order for us to be like, is this worth our mental health? So the fact that you have to take that step back to take care of it, I applaud you because a lot of people keep going just to show up and paint this picture perfect for everyone, and that just end up destroying me.
Yeah. And it gets to a place where there's no turning back sometimes, and like I was reading so much about, mental health and entrepreneurship. And every single entrepreneur has a severe mental health disorder. All of us.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I knew what I was signing up for when I started this business. I just, you can't anticipate a pandemic. Then you can't anticipate the stresses
Right.
and you can't anticipate, IVF and what that feels like because that's what also sealed the deal for me. I'm just like, I remember having this conversation with my mom, who's obviously being Latina. And, when I walked away from my corporate job, she said, "Tú estás loca. Who would do that? Like, what do you mean you're gonna walk away from a six-figure salary and start all over again?" And I'm like, who are you the one to talk? I was like, didn't your dad do that? Like, I mean, come on. I was like, come on, let me try. It was a very different conversation when I was like, hey, I told her after it happened because I was like, I don't even have the mental capacity to tell you that it's going to happen. I told her after
Good.
everything, which was
Yeah.
very hard for me because my mom and I were very close, but I could not handle like having to like kind of say everything while it was happening in real time because I was still myself trying to process because it is not just letting go of this whole thing that I built in the last 10 years, but it's knowing that my relationships with my teams and my clients that I love so much are going to inevitably change, like there's that. Then there's well, who am I without this business? Because I spent every waking hour doing it or thinking about it or planning for it. It was all of that. But I just told my mom, I was like, I can no longer do this because I'm not happy. And to me, the money part wasn't even bringing me joy anymore. So I'm like, what's the point of it? Like, happiness to me, like, is having food in my refrigerator, having somewhere to sleep, having a warm home, having a family that loves me. Material things, I could care less. Yes, do I like buying a little Louis Vuitton thing here? Yeah, but that doesn't drive me anywhere. Like in the past, it was like, hi, look at all the things that I have. Who cares? Who cares? Especially in the state of the world where things are like going crazy. I'm like, no, I am good with my little life, tranquila tropical, making my coffee on the French press. But it took years to get to that point. Once I started realizing that I wasn't mentally well, it was like 4 years ago when I was like lashing out at my husband for like dumb things. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not thinking clearly. So I started going to therapy. And at that point, when she started unpacking with me, and I think at that point I was like probably the only person in my family going to therapy because I'm like, you guys, like I can't fix myself. This is not like something you can, they say you can't mindset yourself out of. Like I knew that there was something happening that I couldn't control. So my therapist was great because she helped me realize how to work through my anxiety that my thoughts are not real and I'm feeding into my thoughts and making my thoughts control me. The therapy was great, but then it started spiraling into agoraphobia where I was like scared of going outside. And so I would
Wow.
tell people, I hate going to events. I hate going to events. It's such a waste of time. I would say that to deflect. So no one ever knew how bad it got because I was really good at like painting a picture of me just being like really busy. No, I would be home crippled. I couldn't do things. So then after like 2 years of therapy, my lashing out started getting worse. But I wouldn't lash out at work. Work, everything, everyone's like, great, right? Oh, she's great. What are you talking about? Everybody else in my personal life was getting the severely depressed, anxious side of me. And then at that point, my doctor was like, my therapist was like, you should really consider medication. And I'm just like, wow, I'm crazy. That's the first thing I thought. I'm like,
Because
man,
that's how we're conditioned, right? As Latinas, especially when we think about therapy, right? This is something we've spoken about a lot. Like therapy in the Latina community, especially like our parents, it's like, oh, eso para loco. If you're going to therapy, like you must be crazy and losing your mind.
yeah. Or if you can't get it together, toughen up.
Yeah.
We didn't have the luxuries of carry on. Oh, you're too emotional, you're too sensitive. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, I don't think I'm any of those things. But I know that I am just like, am I really gonna take medication? So then something my therapist said, like it clicked for me, and I'm like, no, you are absolutely right. And she goes, when you have a heart condition, do you tell yourself, oh, if I pray really hard and if I work really hard, my heart's gonna get better? She's like, no, that's crazy. Like, if something's wrong with your heart, you go to a doctor and you get it fixed, whether through medication. And she's like, your brain is chemically imbalanced. She goes, your brain is an organ and it's currently playing tricks on you. And your brain is very good at adapting to what you feed it, like in the sense of like thoughts and actions. So she's like, you've tried to mindset your way out of this for 2 years already. She goes, medication is going to give you the quality of life that you deserve. And I remember ordering the medication and it sat on my countertop for like a week. And I'm just, am I going to take this? And I just remember looking at my husband and I'm like, oh my God, like I feel crazy. And I'm like, then at one point I was just like, just take it and see what happens. And obviously it takes a while. I'm on Prozac, and which is an antidepressant slash also good for anxiety. And when I tell you the quality of my life has changed, like it's not that I wasn't happy before, but all those like neurotic things that were happening in my head were like, it's like my brain was released from being held hostage from things that weren't real.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, and it's so hard. People are like, what does it feel like? And I was like, I don't know how to explain what it feels like besides like, I can go out now. Like, for example, I went to a Broadway show with one of my friends. And before, I would be at the Broadway show and I wouldn't be present. Like, I would be sitting there looking like I was having a great time. But the whole time, I'm like, I can't wait to leave. I can't wait to get home. I would look for, oh, what happens if somebody starts shooting in here? Where are the exit signs? Exits. So I would start, I would always just be like, something's bad's gonna happen to me. So it's like I could never enjoy things. Where now I'm like, oh my God, like I'm here. I'm having such a great time. Like this is awesome. Nothing bad's gonna happen to me, you know? So luckily with my journey, it's helped a lot of people in my family like start their own journeys too. So it's like I've been like a little conduit to like, hey, you guys, like we don't have to carry the burden of everything. Like I have conversations with my loved ones where I'm like, you guys have to process your trauma. You know, there's some traumas that I'll never understand. I'll never understand the trauma of coming to this country with nothing. I was born here. I'm very privileged, right? But I was like, y'all need to process the trauma of that. Then there's the trauma that your parents put on top of you from coming to this country. Then there's like all the trauma of like not knowing the language. And there's the traumas of what happens in life. Like, and there's the trauma of your parents' passings. Like, that's all stuff. But it's like, you know, our parents and our culture is like, just carry on, just carry on. Everything's fine. And you're like, no, that's why everyone's like just ripping apart at the seams. But anyways, I digress.
But that actually got me thinking because I'm like, you know what? It's crazy because you went from the whole girl boss culture mentality, right? To now a whole different perspective, the inner work that you're still working on that you have to do. So I feel like you're shifting paths in a way without even realizing, because you're going through your healing. Now you're understanding better. You're seeing things from a different perspective. And one thing that I love that you shared earlier is like you're at a stage that it's peace. All you want is peace. I feel we're all in that stage. I'm in that stage too, that I want growth
Yes.
and I want happiness and I want money, right? Because we all need it. But that peace just hits different, because you've been burned so much. So I love how we shift from that girl boss mentality to now you're healing. Now you want peace. You're looking at life from a different perspective. And I'm assuming that's like what make you take a step back, right? Realizing that mental health had to take care of, like you had to take care of it.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I always tell people it's not that I don't want to work. I'm just gonna work very differently, right? So it's like when I closed the business in December, I literally had no idea. And people are like, you have to have known what you were gonna do because I've always been such a planner. I've always been like a short-term and a long-term planner. Like I'll plan on my next 3 months and then I'll start working on things that I want to bring to life like 2 years from now, right? But because of IVF, right? And IVF is it's so complicated because it's like you have no control of your schedule because when you're in the middle of a cycle, it's all based on like where your body is at and your doctors are controlling the hormones. So I went from being a massive control freak to the last 2 years having to rescind control to this process that was now my priority, right? So then there's like all of that's happening. So when I decided to close the business because I was very broken. The business part is very stressful, but to break it down even more, over the last 2 years, I've had 4 egg retrievals. I've had 4 pregnancy losses. I've had more tests than you can ever imagine. So I'm doing all of that privately while just being on the computer, like everything's fine. everything's fine. And I'm injecting myself with all this stuff and showing up on a call after I lost a pregnancy. And everyone's like, is it fine? I'm like, it's fine. My eyes twitching. I'm like, it's fine. Let's talk about shampoos, like, and it's not like, it's not fine. And it's hard because I didn't have anyone to talk to about this. It's very hard. There's still a lot of people that go through IVF and don't want to talk about it because it is a very difficult process. And then there's some that are very open about it, which is another reason why I become very open about it, is because also there's this stereotype, oh, you're Latino. That you just look at you when you get pregnant. Like they just think Latinas are so fertile. Like,
Yeah.
and also I'm the only one in my family that has fertility issues. So I feel very alone in this journey. And then also my whole family lives in Florida. So it's just me and my husband here. So I was like, no, I'm going to use social to start talking about it because I need to build my own community so that I can feel connected to women like me who are going through this. And then I was able to find a lot of other Latinas, a lot of other successful Latinas that came to me and they're like, oh yeah, all of my kids I had through IVF. And I'm like, what? Like, so that part was great. But I say all of this to say is that like when I closed the business, I literally had no plan. All I knew is that I needed to take a step back because I was hormonally imbalanced. I physically don't feel well. This is the heaviest I've ever been in my life. So I feel uncomfortable in my body. Like I was just so out of it. So I was just like, I'm going to close the business and figure it out. I told myself, I'm going to give myself 3 months to figure it out. And I just kept telling everyone, I'm never going to do this again. I hate PR. I hate talent management. Those were the narratives I told myself because I'm just like, if I tell myself that enough, it'll make me figure out what I want to do next. And I would tell people, I'm like, I'm just going to go work at a Starbucks because if my biggest stress in life is getting somebody's cappuccino wrong, that would be a joy, like, compared to what I was dealing with. Right. But then, I told myself that I would not do anything for the whole month of January. I didn't open my computer. There was still a few things that I had to do because closing a business is not as easy as just closing up. There was a lot of still unraveling that has to happen, but it was very minimal. I took my emails off my phone. I stopped wearing my Apple Watch. Like anything that reminded me of a notification, I took it off. I was just like, I need to disengage and just really sit with my own thoughts. But then also the reality is like, I'm like, I need to make money. I know I'm not going to make the same amount of money that I made in the past. And I'm very fortunate that I have a very supportive husband, but I also don't want to deplete my savings and I don't want to become a financial burden to him. So I was like, let me just give myself some time and figure it out. And then I just really sat down. I'm like, okay, I knew what happened. I actually love what I do. What I realized is it was the weight of running a business is what drains me. That doesn't mean I have to stop doing what I was doing. And what I realized is that I just love doing like the bigger picture stuff, the strategy, the consulting, the guiding my clients. That's what I love doing. The pitching an outlet, the running the accounting, the filing paperwork. That's the stuff I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. So little by little, like in February, I was like, okay, Lissette, nothing has to change. You just have to show up differently, right? So you're not going to be executing, you're just going to be consulting. And for me, also, because I know thinking bigger picture, and I also know how this world works, where it's like, especially now with social media, it's out of sight, out of mind. So I'm like, I cannot be completely disconnected because if I do want to look for a job, I need to have an online portfolio that shows my capabilities. And that's how I use my social media, my professional portfolio of my POV and things like that. So I was like, okay, just convert the business to a consulting and let people hire you by the hour. And that's what I did. And it clicked. One day I was taking a shower in the middle of February. I sat down, I got on my computer, and I just switched everything. I went on Canva, I did a little CI consulting logo, dropped it, cleared out the social media. So nothing from my old life was there. And that's it. Like literally in 2 days, I just put it all together. And then I'm like, okay, sit down and really start creating content around what it is that you want to say. And that's how I did it. Like everything has been in the moment and then just letting things happen because I told myself I'm not going to burn myself out over a dollar. Every dollar that I make, it needs to bring me joy. And I'm making my little dinerito here and there. And I told myself now that I'm not against having a full-time job in corporate, but it has to be the right position, the right company, and it's a little bit harder because I'm a very high level executive. So it's not like there's that many job openings in what I'm looking for, but I'm not against it because I told myself, okay, I worked in corporate for 10 years. I had a business for 10 years. I have nothing else to prove. I just want to make my money, go on vacation, spend time with my husband, and live a good, peaceful life. I already did the girl boss thing and look where it took me. I don't want that again. You know, now I'm in my European life. I work to live. I
To
don't live to work.
live.
Yes,
And it's something about those
I love that.
that vision and ideas that we get inside the shower. Because I've
Always.
that all my
Yeah,
moments have been like, I'm showering and I'm like, "La," and I'm like, why do I open a podcast? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? And it's like, why, right?
yeah.
You said that, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's one thing in common we all have as well.
It's always the shower. The shower, and now luckily in the middle of this whole locura of me closing the business in October without knowing, because the business really unraveled itself at the beginning of November, and then I had to like make all the decisions and unravel it by December. But in October, because earlier that month we had a loss, we already had a dog and he's 10 years old. And my husband's like, we should get a second dog because it'll make the quality of his life better and it'll be good for us in the transition. Because, at the end of the day, as much as we want our dogs to be with us forever, they're not. So he's been on this get a second dog forever. And I'm like, I'm not getting a second dog. That's too much work, whatever. But con toda la locura of like, having all these pregnancy losses, I was just like, I want to nurture something. And our little Frenchie, he's great, but he's un viejito and like he already, he has his routine. He doesn't require that much nurturing. He's just good. He's like, feed me, give me some belly rubs. So I look at him like, I want a dog. I want a second dog. And I told him like, and I specifically want a working dog. I love our Frenchie, but they're very lazy. I was like, I want a working dog so that, and we knew it had to be a girl because our dog is reactive to boy dogs. So I was like, and she has to be like active so I can be outside, go on long walks. I can take her on runs, like just keep me so active. Because with IVF, I went from being like a hardcore athlete, marathoner, CrossFitter, personal trainer girl to nope, when you're on doing IVF, all you can do is like walks because like you can't do anything super intense. So I was like, okay, if all I can do is walk, then I'm gonna have to walk a lot, like a lot, a lot. We adopt this dog in October, and God bless her. I told my husband, I'm like, she is saving me and healing me in ways that I could not have done on my own because she's a pit bull German Shepherd. She requires so much activity. Like when I tell you I am outside and I clock in at least 5 to 6 miles a day walking, she keeps me outside, she just keeps me in nature thinking and thinking and thinking. So when all of this was happening, I would just be on. And also, the best part about New York City is that you could be walking a dog and crying and nobody flinches. Like,
The beauty of
Nobody's gonna question it.
nobody cares because everyone's going through it. So she's been really amazing. So I've also been a huge advocate for animals because she has been an incredible emotional support that has helped
yeah,
in the whole journey. So that's why I'm
to
like, I
change
just
our
want to
life.
chill. So yeah, my shower and my long walks is where
Walk.
like
Yeah, same.
everything. And I think it's because in those moments you're detached from technology. You're just detached. So it's like
Yeah.
you're just living in the present and you get so much clarity when you don't have distractions.
And I want to say, I think because you took the step to go into therapy and take those medication, you were able to pivot.
Yeah.
I think we can agree if you would have never took those steps, I don't think you would be able to think so clear to do these pivots and now be consulting and kind of take a step back. So that in itself is like amazing, right? We always talk about like therapy being a taboo in the Latina community. So I think that was, an amazing step that you took.
No, I mean, for sure. I always tell people collectively, especially now, I always say Earth is ghetto. Collectively, with everything that's happening, every single person should be in therapy. The pandemic was hard on everyone at all levels. And then it didn't happen right away. It catches up. Then you throw in everything that's happening in the world, politically, regionally, wars, sides, racism, y- the presidential election. It's just like we keep living natural disasters. Like we just keep living through once in a lifetime things, and it's all happening in a short period. And if you're a person with compassion, this stuff affects you. So it's just like I tell people, like everyone should be in therapy, okay? Like we all have something to unpack at this point, and it is so beneficial. And that's why I keep saying like your brain is an organ. And sometimes a chemical imbalance is beyond a mindset shift motivation. And I always tell people, I'm like, the medication is a tool, but you still have to put in the work. And everyone's kind of practices are different. I have figured out my regimen. My regimen to keep my anxiety low is, yes, I take my medication every day, but I've incorporated like magnesium glycinate, I can never say it, which helps with like relaxing the body. I make sure that I limit my caffeine to only 2 cups of coffee a day. Caffeine, when I would drink it a lot, would just escalate my anxiety to like another level. I also make sure that I journal as much as I can. I don't open social media before like I eat a full breakfast. Like I don't look at social and I don't look at work emails before I've had time to like wake up, wash my face. Like I'm not trying to consume additional things besides like my peace and clarity. I eat breakfast and then I'll go on. So like pretty much like the first hour, I try not to go on social. I'll check text messages in case like my family or whatever. I'll do that, but like I don't check social. And then I try to find things that create moments of slowness. So instead of, I love my Nespresso machine, but instead of like popping in the Nespresso machine, I'll do a French press. And then I love to cook. So then I'm like, I know it sounds crazy, but I try to give myself like a little bit of complicated things to make so that it keeps my hands busy. The more that my hands are busy, I make sure that I'm not doom scrolling, right? Other ways that I limit my anxiety is that I only allow myself to watch the news 1 hour a day. And that's like the and that I watch the Today Show, which I feel like is like the softest. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
watch hard news. Literally, I only watch it in the morning just to see what's happening in the world. And after that, it flicks over now. I have my dogs have anxiety, of course. So I put anti-anxiety music for the dogs, and it's very like birds chirping. And then at night, Bravo. I watch Housewives, I go into another planet. So, everyone has like a different system, but I'm trying to, and obviously I exercise, I go on walks, like things like that. I try to read, I read the Bible. Like I try to just keep things like soft and chill. And obviously, moments with my husband, we go on date nights and we enjoy the city and stuff like that. But I know what works for me. And to me, disengaging from technology and disengaging from the news keeps me sane.
I love that. Yeah. And I know you spoke a lot about like your healing journey. And I know you've been so open lately about healing in public and in real time, not waiting until right everything is perfect and all wrapped up in a bow. So what pushed you to start like sharing and being more open? I know on your social media platform, which by the way, we love when you do those mini series, like Lissette is having a midlife crisis. I like love watching that. I especially love the one where you were in Costco and you were showing like the food because I was like, oh yeah, I need that. Oh, look at what she got. So I love that. So what made you just be more open about your journey while you were going through it, not at the end when everything was all perfect?
Yeah, I mean, in some aspects, like I'm kind of like a loca. Like I've always been the kind of person, I don't take myself too seriously. Like I do and I don't. You know what I mean? Like I'll take the important things seriously. But like in general, like I've always been the kind of person where I'm like, nobody's life is perfect. So why are we pretending like it is? Like everyone has problems. And I just love social media. Like I'm not like a social media hater. I love social media because again, I moved here with no family. So for me, when I moved here, I had no family, no friends. So social was a way for me to create community. I knew for a fact. I was like, once I close this business, people are gonna be like, what the heck happened? Like, because everyone always be like, "Oh my God, you're such a girl boss. You're such a girl boss." And I'm just like, I need to peel back a few layers and tell people like, girl bossing ain't it. And for me, it really was like it was like a cheeky joke. I'm like, oh, I turned 40 and like I unraveled my life. And I remember just being like, wow, Lissetta's, I was just here and I'm like, wow, Lissetta's having a midlife crisis. And then I was like, wait, that would be really funny. And the thing is that I was like, how do I make comedy out of like my life, right? Because everyone that knows me personally knows that I'm just very big on like self-deprecating humor. So I use like dark humor for like very serious things. So it was just also like a way to just express myself. And I also did it selfishly to have a visual diary for myself of what's happening to me during this time, right? Like I actually record a lot of my life that never gets posted. I have like this like hard drive and I have all this content so that in the future I can look back and be like, wow, like look what my life was like in New York. And so I was like, what if I just convert some of this into just funny stuff, right? But like I'm talking about heavy things, but just in a funny way. And of course, like I worked for 10 years managing content creators. So I know what the strategies are. I know what's going to trigger people. But to me, my social, like I always tell people, like if I really wanted to be a content creator, monetize it and growth hack myself, I could. Like I know every trick in the book. My husband owns a production studio. Like I could be cranking out content like a movie studio. But I'm like, I don't. Like to me, this is just fun. I want to have fun. I want to kick it. I don't take it as serious. So I just did it mainly as part of my own healing and just to have fun and also just like as a creative outlet. Like I'm to me, like I don't want to be like, I'm so funny, but people would always be like, you're so funny, you're so funny. I'm like, oh, okay, you want to show people? I'm like, okay, fine. You think I'm so funny, then I'm just gonna show people how funny I am. So that's really what it was. It was just to be like, oh, I'm having a midlife crisis. Like, this is what happens. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life. Well, and then through all of that, but then in my mind, I'm very chaotic, right? In the sense that I'm like, I'm not gonna like do like this whole production, but then I'm like, okay, I know I have a lot to say, but like, how am I gonna package this? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna show myself doing random things and I'm just gonna slap a voiceover. And like the voiceover never matches what you see in the video.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I
That's what
just,
keeps you watching it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what keeps me watching it because you're doing random things, especially when you're like cooking, because I'm paying attention to like the ingredients of what you're cooking, but I'm really tuning into what you're saying. One, because I can relate. Two, because you're being so vulnerable about your mental health. And I think that's where the connection happens, right? When you start storytelling and being vulnerable, that's where people can relate.
yeah.
So, yeah, no, I love it.
And it
And that's
hits different.
yeah,
Yeah.
and again, all of this was for selfish reasons. So that I'm one of those people I like I'll volunteer myself as tribute. Like I'll put myself out there knowing that if I put myself out there, someone's gonna connect and reach out to me and say, "Hey, this happened to me too, and this helped me." So it's been so gratifying because it's like now I don't care if I put myself out there. I don't care if I look crazy. I don't care if I things are disheveled because I know that I just need a random visual. And once I put the words out there, people are like, "Hey, this is happening to me too." I've had so many people reach out to me and say, thank you for sharing your story. I'm going to therapy. Thank you for sharing your story. I was suicidal and I got on medication and I feel good now.
Beautiful.
Like, I don't do it to like applaud myself either, but I'm just like, it's just an example of like, if, and I know the way that I share my life, not everyone is that vulnerable. Not everyone has that level of comfort, but there is so much power in being real because then people feel less alone. Like I had another very close friend of mine start sharing that she just started IVF and she posted it on social. And I was like, I had no idea. She DMs me and she's like, I just want to thank you because IVF shouldn't be scary and I shouldn't feel ashamed. And because you shared, I'm sharing so that the next person doesn't feel ashamed. And I'm like, this is honestly, that's why I do it. It's like so that I can just vent, use it as my own therapy, as my own personal diary of my life, but knowing that, like, us sharing each other's stories, the same way you guys having this podcast and talking about these tough things, it's going to help people. You've already been helping people. And it's not about helping people on a huge scale. Like, I always say, like, I have tres gatos following me, you know, compared to the clients that I have that have like millions of followers. But for me, it's like I just love talking to my little group, talking to you both and talking to the people who show up on my DMs and just making an impact. And to me, that's what also this journey has made me realize, especially doing my little Lissette is having a midlife crisis series, is
Love.
that I love helping women because
Yeah.
it's like, and I grew up in a very positive household. But I always say my parents were so young when they had us. Like my mom was 19 when she had my brother. She was 21 when she had me. So they were like babies raising babies, you know?
Yeah.
And I think when you get older, you know, when you get older, you're like, holy shit, you had no idea what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that I had to figure out on my own. So I'm like, okay, if I'm able to figure this out on my own, then I want to be able to help someone not go through the trials and tribulations that I went through. Like, it doesn't have to be so hard for you. Like, this is what I've done. This is how I feel. Guess what? Life is not perfect. And for me, it's also part of the whole social media thing where everyone's life looks so aesthetic and everyone's life looks so perfect and everyone thinks that everyone's life is together. If you come to my page and you just take away like, okay, everyone's life is actually a hot mess, that's part of it. I'm the kind of person I like to swim upstream. If everyone's over here, I want to be over here. Like, this is where I'm at. So
Yeah.
That
And you being so vulnerable about your mental health, it reminds me of, like for me, I went through mental health. I was very suicidal at a certain point in my life. And to me, I always say, I want to be loud about my mental health because I almost died in private. So
yeah,
when
girl,
you're
you're about
very,
to start making me cry because that's like a really huge thing.
yeah,
Hold on, let me get my tears together. I had ideations too. And I think that's why I'm just so full of joy now. Because when you're in such a dark place and you get on the other side, you want to make use of every second you have. And I remember telling my husband, I told him, like, I don't think I would have offed myself, but I was like, I understand. I told him, like, I understand why people do it. I can understand because you could have everything in the world. But if your brain is telling you these crazy things, you just want to shut it off. And you're just like, I need it to stop. And if that means I just go to sleep forever and I have mental peace, then yeah, that sounds like a fucking great out. So that is a huge motivator as to why I also live loudly and vulnerable and unashamed because it was so bad for so long that people will never have any idea how bad it was. So that's why it's like, I have to, because I'm so happy now and I have so much to be grateful for. And I'm
yeah,
so glad for therapy and I'm so glad for medication and I'm so glad for my community. And yeah, I don't care what people think about me. I'm here. I'm here. That's enough.
yeah.
was,
Thank you.
and
Yeah,
that's to you.
yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Thank
And
you.
no, I'm so glad that you're like loud about it because when I watch these videos, that's what it made me think of. And I'm like, man, she's being loud about it because we have no idea what happened to her in private. And like for me, I shared before, like I started this podcast because I'm going to be loud about it because no one knows what was going on behind closed doors. I almost died, so I'm going to be loud about my healing process.
And help
So,
because with me was the miscarriages. I have my two healthy, handsome boys, but before that, I had three miscarriages and one stillbirth. And I wish I had a platform, people like you being vulnerable and sharing their process, whether it was IVF, knowing that, okay, I'm not alone, I'm struggling to become a mom, right? And miscarriages, because those are topics, mental health, miscarriages, we don't discuss, we don't talk about, we're not open about, because we feel like, especially in nuestra comunidad,
Yes.
oh, you're so young. I remember when I had my stillbirth and they were like, ay, pero tú estás joven, you can have like five more.
And
And
you're
that is
like,
still,
hello.
I still get, because I still reflect that day, even with my kids today. I'm like, but that's not what you tell someone that's going through this moment, right? And I wasn't able to relate with anybody and just go back to work at the time. I was in corporate America. So it hits different when you hear people and go on your page like you, that you just become vulnerable and you're just being you and you're making some humor about it, because we also have to laugh, right? Even though it's a serious topic, laugh and know that it's okay. We're not alone on this. You're crazy. I'm crazy. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
So thank you for being vulnerable today with us.
yeah,
Because you're
Thank you guys
impacting
so much
many
for having
lives.
me. I could talk forever about
I
this.
know.
This is such a great topic, and you're amazing. Like, and
I think.
honestly, it's such a heavy topic that we need to be more open about. And there's so much shame in our culture about struggling, especially when we've made it, right? Like when you've made it, when we made it, we feel like we have our life put together. What do you wish more women knew about what healing really?
I feel specifically for women and Latina women, I feel like they think they don't have the right to heal in the sense that they think because we are raised obviously Latinas in general, the gender roles are strong, right? So it's like, and especially if you're a mom, everyone comes first, you come last. And I feel it's very hard for women to be selfish. You have the right to be selfish and to put yourself first. And in that aspect, I've always been a little bit like that, but I really leaned into that like the last 2 years. And I had conversations with my husband and my family, and I'm like, I need to take care of me first before I pour into everyone else's cup. And that doesn't make me any less of a wife, doesn't make me any less of a daughter. But if I'm crumbling, you already saw what happens when I crumble. This whole house is crumbling. So I think women, Latinas, need to proactively just be selfish in taking care of themselves. And obviously, I hope that the day that I have children, that's not going to change, so that they see a healthy mom who stays active and who goes out of her way to take care of herself so that they learn how to take care of themselves, so that you do have the right to do it without feeling guilt. I do not feel any guilt when I leave this house, or I don't feel guilty if I tell my husband, hey, dinner's going to be ready later because I need to take a soul cycle class. I don't feel guilty. He's also incredibly supportive. Obviously, that's why I married him. But I think, we as women need to give ourselves that permission, because that is what's going to keep you healthy, and do it proactively and not wait until it's too late to start the self care. Start the self care now. And it doesn't mean that you're going to like dismantle your whole schedule, but find the one thing that brings you joy for yourself and by yourself. You have to love yourself wholly so that you can love everyone else too. So that's what I would tell people, because I feel as Latinas, I saw it with my own mom. My mom has constantly put herself last her whole life. And
Yeah.
now we're working together to not have that be anymore.
I couldn't
So,
agree more.
yeah.
That was beautiful. That's what we
Yeah.
needed to hear, and the reminder that should be put out there daily, especially
Totally.
as mujer, right? That we carry so much on our plate and we expect the same in return, but then we forget to pour into our own cups. So that was
Yeah.
beautiful.
I love that. And what's something you're still healing from right now that's considered a taboo? And what's one truth that's helped you stay grounded in your healing journey?
Oof. Okay, I'll answer the second question first while I think. I think one thing that helps me stay grounded in general is that, I don't know who said the saying, I'm sure we'll find the quote, but change is the only constant in life. And to me, that is just like a reminder every day. Like, things don't have to stay the same. Things are not going to stay the same. There's going to be hard days, but then it's going to get better. And to me, it's just the evolving. Change is such a natural part of life. And I think that is what's putting me together in this healing journey, because there's been so much change in the past 2 years, and specifically the last couple of months, that it would make anyone crazy, because I still feel very lost. And actually, answering this question now has answered
Yes.
the first part of the question. I think I'm still healing from feeling very lost, because, like, it's not that I don't know what my purpose is. Like, I know what my purpose is, but I still haven't figured out how to put it into action, if that makes sense. And specifically from a professional aspect. Like, I had, such a strong professional career the last 20 years, that I don't have that now. So I still feel lost. And yes, I consult, but the consulting thing is just to keep my brain working, to keep engaging with my network. But I literally do not know what I'm going to do professionally in the next like 5 years. And that, it makes me scared, but like not in a bad way. Like, I like fear. It's what motivates me. But that's what I'm still healing from, is just like this sense of loss of like, I have no idea what's happening. So, yeah.
And I think we all go through that journey at some point, because as I listen to you sharing that, I have so much going on, and Cynthia would understand that I feel that I have so much excitement to look forward to, but I feel lost. Like, I feel like I'm heading the right direction, but I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years, because again, I feel like I have that sense, that urgency, like that faith, that excitement, but that purpose driven. It's like, where am I going? And it gets scary. And when I lay down every night, and thank you for mentioning that, because I get a little, emotional, because it makes you think, like, I'm like, I've done so much and now I pivoted and I keep pivoting. And it's like, I'm scared as we get older, like, what if nothing happens, or what if it does? Like, what am I destined to do? And that gets scary, but the reminder that we're not alone, like today, thank you. I needed to hear that, you know?
Yay! No, we're all in this together. And
Yes.
that's why like I'm a big advocate of like networking and having such a strong network of Latinas in my life. And now I hope I can like wrap you guys up into my world too, because I just feel like the more of us who are supporting each other mentally, physically, emotionally, like it's so powerful. And we are all going through such unique yet similar experiences that we can all relate at different points. So again, I can't thank you guys enough for like having me on today and you guys having this platform, because these are the kind of conversations that everyone needs to hear.
It is.
Uh-huh.
We all get to hear it like individually, and I'm sure the audience, like it was so powerful. But before we let you go, coming into our favorite segment, de la tía chismosa. So we would love to know, ¿qué diría tu tía chismosa about the women you've become?
Oh my God, what's so funny, because when you guys said this in the beginning, I was like, there's this one tia that I'm gonna call out, and her name is Rosa, but we actually call her Mosa for
Most-
chismosa. Because she is like the most chismosa person in our family. Like she is so spicy. Like, oh my God, she is literally the best. And I mean, she's still in my life today. She's like 80 something years old. She's just like fire. And she would just be like, "Allá tú, dale, échale." She's so proud. She's so proud that I went against the grain, because I'm the only person in my family that has left Miami. Like my whole family still lives in Miami. I'm the only person that lives out of state, that has done all these crazy things. The majority of my family still works in the family business. And she'd just be like, "Yeah, haga lo que tú quieras." Like she'd be like, "Quieres ser puta? Sea puta." You know, like, she's just like,
I love it.
so she is literally the personification of chismosa, because she has literally supported all of my locuras my entire life. Like she just thinks I'm a riot because I've always been like a little crazy. I don't know if it's like the Leo in me. So she just like amps me up, you know? So yeah, 100%. She would just be like, she is literally, I don't know how to say it in an 80-year-old term, but she's definitely like kind of
Yeah.
chismoseo. She's just like, do whatever you want, because she's had a wild life. So she is not one to judge. Okay. She's been divorced a bunch of times, like, facelift, BBLs, all that stuff,
She lived her best life. That's what
Yeah. So she's like, just
yeah.
yeah, just
I love
Oh
it.
my gosh, that's the best one yet I've heard of. Oh, I love it.
Rosa, we need Rosa in our lives.
it's Mosa. Her name is Mosa, short for
Famosa.
chismosa.
I love it. Oh my God. And of course, before we wrap up with you, Lizette, please tell our listeners any exciting news or projects you have coming up, or ways just our listeners can support you.
I can't think of anything coming up right now. I'm still like in that post-vacation brain, because yesterday was Memorial Day, but definitely follow me on my personal. It's Lisi Marie at Lisi Marie on Instagram, and it's Lisi.Marie on TikTok. TikTok is more chaotic. I post more random things on TikTok than I do on Instagram.
I love it.
Um, and then honestly, there's no huge major projects. I'm just kind of taking on consulting projects, seeing what comes my way. I may be going to this professional conference in July. I don't know if that's happening or not, but I'm just going to be posting more content there while I figure out my life and I don't know, maybe get a full-time job.
Just keep being you because that's
Yeah, we
really
love it.
need more of. Lisa, thank you for keeping it real and showing us that healing and power can live in the same story. For every mujer listening, let this be your reminder. Your worth isn't in how much you hustle, it's in who you are without the mask. So thank you,
It's
Lisa. Thank you.
That was mic drop, Jeanette.
Yes, and of course, to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Y como siempre, chicas, we'll see you next time on Taboo Talk Latina Edition, where we keep breaking cycles, breaking silence, and breaking taboos. Bye, chicas.